Well, good morning and welcome to City Talk with Slim, Slim Overton, of course. And this is our second show. So I'll stop naming them after a while, but this is the Slim Talk with Slim and presented by the Slim Nation 101 Experience. Just wanted to do something where I could talk to different people in the different cities of Hampton Roads and beyond Hampton Roads as we go along. But I'm starting here in Hampton Roads because we have some unique cities here. So for our second show, I'm glad to have the Honorable Tina Vick. And I use the Honorable, and I'm not disrespecting her position, but she's a friend. So if I call her Tina, don't come at me and say, well, you're disrespecting the city council person. I said, well, I think it's okay for me to call her Tina because she's going to call me Slim. So that's what friends do, you know. And we are friends, but we never met in person. One of these days, we're going to meet in person. It's going to be something that's going on. I might have to make a special trip over Newport News just to have lunch. But anyway, welcome. Thank you, Tina, for agreeing to come on and be the second guest on City Talk with Slim from the city of Newport News. And you are the longest serving city council person on the Newport News Council right now. Am I correct?
Yes, you are. And good morning to you, Slim. I am so thankful that you wanted to have me on the show to talk about our great city of Newport News. And yes, I am the longest serving. And if anybody would have told me that in 2008 when I won my first campaign, because then I was one of the newest. so look how time flies.
Yes, indeed. And we're going to talk about some things that's going on in Newport News, the present time, and what you're looking for in the future. But just you've been on our show, one of our shows, at least 2 or 3 times, I think. But you came on one time with other elected officials from different cities, and we're going to try to do that again. You do a regional thing, but just briefly tell people what you're the longest serving. What got you started in politics? I mean, was it something that happened at VCU? I have to mention your college, VCU, in the city of Richmond, not far from VUU. But anyway, exactly. I had to get that in. But was it something, because a lot of people start their interest in politics, a lot of time it starts in college because, if you look back at history, a lot of the movement started with college students under the guidance of some of the elders that were already out there working. But what got you started in politics and said, I think I'm going to run and thinking you could win?
Well, my public life started when I was a teenager. I've always volunteered in the community. I was in high school, part of the Kids, the youth advisory board that we had in our community. I was like the only teenager because we grew up in public housing in Ridley Circle, and I was the only teenager who was attending the tenant council meetings.
You were a little ahead of your time.
And all of those people who ran the tenant council meetings and the tenants, the actual tenants that had their own apartments, older than me, they were so happy about me coming to the meetings. But I just always had an interest in knowing what's going on around me. I think people really should. There's so many people. I remember one election night because that was the second time I won. That was I think it was 2012, and we had the race was over. I had won, so we had collected the yard signs and had them all scattered in my yard because we had the victory party at my house. And so a guy walked past it with seeing all those signs, and he said, "What's going on?" But so I say that to say it takes me aback when people can live in a place and they don't know what's going on around them. Yes, and I wanted to have that going on around me now. For our first race in 2008, it was very scary because of course Michael Vick, the now the coach of Norfolk State, is my nephew, and so what the first campaign we ran was during the Michael Vick dogfighting saga, and so but there were so many people who were supportive that I knocked on doors to say, because our family had been known, we've been in Newport News forever, so our family name was already known, and it's been for good things and leadership, and so we were
Let me
able.
ask you. Let me ask you. And that wasn't your first run. That was another run when that happened. How
That was my first run in
oh, all
2000.
that happened? Okay, you trying to get identified, so people would know who you are, and just to let people know, Newport News has districts they run in,
Yeah,
and you run in the South District, or you represent the South District as well as the whole city of Newport News. But you do have the districts that you actually run in. But
yeah.
how was that? I mean, you're trying to get you're trying to get your points across, and the news that was out there that was kind of overtaking even your run was about your nephew.
Well, we our campaign. My campaign manager is my very first nephew, Greg Brooks, and so we had already met to discuss the what he called the elephant in the room, and so we were prepared for that. But the best thing that really happened during that race, because my nephew is known, because I was already known from working in the community. People, as we knocked on doors, we rarely had anybody saying anything about it because they already. What I loved about the way I lived my life, I was already known
Okay.
as I knocked on doors. Very few people had not known me, and
Yeah.
so that's what made the race easier. Because, like I told you, I've been volunteering in high school, as a teenager. Working with pregnant teens in my 20s, in my 30s. I was working with juvenile offenders and their families. In my 40s, I was director of Peninsula Community Development Corporation, where it was my job to find property, whether it's land or houses that we renovated and sold to low to moderate income first time home buyers. And I had started a homeowners club so people can find out the process of buying a home, because I'm also a real estate broker at this point.
Yes, indeed. Well, people were easily able to separate those two things because of what you just said, because they knew you in the neighborhood. And I believe at that time, a lot of people felt like, some of the things were kind of unfair. We should be allowed to make a mistake. And look,
Right.
look where we are now. Look where your
Exactly.
nephew is, Michael Vick is now,
That's
so
what a lot of
it,
people. That's what a lot of doors we knocked on. That was one of the responses. Some people were like, "Yeah, we're going to vote for you because we think they gave Michael Vick too much time."
yeah,
Because a lot of people, some of that stuff was absurd. Sometimes people are killing people and don't even get time, and and
right.
and, and sometimes race plays a lot into that. Race and socioeconomic status.
Right, right. Just like and we'll move on after this. Just like we were talking before we came on air, looking at today's time and some of the Epstein people
Right.
that should have been indicted years ago, because
Yeah.
we've been knowing about this for a while for what they've done, and the comparison of the crimes was just really kind of unfair. But that's the way it is now. And we hope that justice will be done for the people, like they felt like they were doing, you know, uh, you know, for the dogs. I mean,
Right.
come on, you
And
know.
they're doing that to children, young girls.
Yes, yes, indeed, yes, indeed. Okay, so where are we now? We had talked and Newport News. I had Mayor Shannon Glover from Portsmouth on last week, and you mentioned something in our pre-talk too that's similar to what we're doing here in Portsmouth, the innovation district that we also have, where we're trying to link downtown with our midtown area. It's this part of High Street that's was developed a long time ago, but it has gotten old, so it's sort of a separation. A lot of the business, so we're trying to link that. It's called the Link now, and that link is kind of uh, associated with Black history. I'll tell you about that later. But you all are doing the same thing as far as innovation, and you all been doing that for a while with Oyster Point, and then you still have the traditional downtown. But Oyster Point can also be a second downtown for you. I mean, it's a great area to
Yeah.
visit, and relax and sort of fulfill all your needs. So tell us about what's going on now, because I'm sure you're still being innovative in some of the things you want to do in Newport News.
Oh, thank you. Well, right, and Mayor Glover is really a good mayor. I actually know him, and so he's always welcoming me to Portsmouth. But when I talked about the innovation center, when I talked to you earlier off of the show,
Mm-hmm.
it's really a building that we had, because when I got in office, I was very concerned about low unemployment number, I mean, high unemployment numbers in a particular area, of course, where we've had the most poverty. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was concerned about that, because I feel like any leadership should come into this seat and be able to look at some of the issues or all of the issues and then try to rectify the problem, instead of just saying it is what it is. And I'm not an it is what it is kind of leader. I
Right.
really want to figure out solutions to problems. And so for me, being a representative and knowing that we had pockets in the city, particularly this area, where the unemployment numbers were high, uh, the biggest thing I could think of are number one, summer job employment, youth employment, summer employment, and also being able to have a building in close proximity to where the unemployment is high, and to be able to provide connectivity to jobs and job training, connectivity to um, the people who can direct them. Of course, the shipyard is our biggest employer, one of our biggest employers. Riverside Hospital is as well. But to be able to provide people with the connectivity of how do we get these jobs? Because all people who are unemployed, some people have not had the opportunity in life to be able to get to know about certain things, as far as employment wise, so particularly as we look at Black people in America, it was not customary for Black people to really have jobs that were connected to any type of employment or supervisory or owning kind of positions, to be able to make those decisions to hire people. So
Right.
I felt like it was so important that we provide a place, which is now our Brooks Crossing Innovation and Opportunity Center under my leadership, so that people can have a walker friendly, if they don't have a car, they can have a walker friendly experience to the place that can connect them with employment. So I'm so proud of my work on that.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a catch-22 thing. A city might put up a building or dedicate a building towards helping people, but it's so far away. It's
Exactly.
catch-22. How am I gonna get there? I'm trying to get to the point where I'm employable, but right now I don't have transportation. I'm trying to get to that point. So you
Well,
have
Slim,
to
I'm
go
glad
where
you
the
brought
people
that up.
are.
I'm
Hmm.
glad you brought that up, because I was um, uh, sitting on the workforce board. It was the Greater Peninsula Workforce Development at that time board. But I used to sit in those meetings at 8 o'clock, which were, because Newport News we're a long city, 26 square miles long.
Hmm.
And so I used to sit in those meetings, because actually we met in a place in Hampton. And so I used to sit there as some of the people were complaining about some people, even if you gave them a bus pass, they didn't want to come up to where that facility was. But Slim, it was all the way in Hampton, in the upper part of Hampton.
Right.
And we're the people who have the highest unemployment are down here where I live, down all the way at the base of Newport News.
Hmm.
So that's not a bus trip that you're going to get on one bus and just go there. I keep saying I'm going to take a ride. I've been saying it for years. I got to stop saying it and really do it. But I'm imagining that it's at least 2 or 3 transfers to get there. So that's not a motivator. And if, particularly if somebody is a parent, you have to get your children off to school, and that means you cannot make that 8 o'clock appointment, that 8 a.m. appointment. Sometimes we have to, as leaders, we have to really look at people's lives to really know how to proceed with whatever type of business we are having, and being able to have them gain opportunity. So people have been really thankful for that. We were able to fund the Summer Youth Employment Program, which I think should be mandatory in every city, because I have to say this, and a lot of people don't think about this, because we have to instill in people early a good work ethic, right? You don't want your child to just wake up at 18 and then start looking for employment or trying to get some training. No,
Right.
they need to have increments early on so they can prepare and know about rules in the workplace. You'd be surprised the amount of the adults that I see who don't know rules of the workplace, don't know that it's important to work and have gainful employment. Because I tell people all the time, and particularly when I talk to youth, that you've got to start early to prepare for your adulthood, which is even more responsibility, because then you got to add on, you know, you got to find a place to live. You got
Yes.
Most people want a car. If they don't have a car, now with Uber, some people are changing up. They just do, but it's about preparation. Summer jobs are so important to me because I know how important it was to my life and my family and my neighbors.
Yes,
So,
indeed.
yeah, because a lot of us grew up poor, and I know we did, but you have to get people prepared so they won't have the mindset to just stay in poverty. That they will understand that with education, job training, job connectivity, now even owning your own business, you've got to make sure you're prepared to live your adult life.
Yes, indeed. And you have to create those opportunities these days. And it's not like a lot of people might say, well, you're putting the people ahead and taking jobs from us. But, it's different from the time like when I was growing up. It was all, most of the neighborhoods were segregated, but
Right.
we found ways, it might have been neighborhood markets where, you could work in there, but it's not, those opportunities are not there for our younger folks now. They mostly in the house on the computer.
Right.
So by the time they think about, you know, uh, what am I going to do with the jobs? They have grown a little bit, but we started real early, uh, creating, figuring out, if you work for somebody in the neighborhood, they made sure you were there on time, and whether you
Yes.
wanted to go, if your parents said you had a paper route, they wouldn't let you quit. You say, "Oh man, I'm tired." No,
Right.
you wanted the paper route. You get out there 6 o'clock every morning, and it created a sense of, like you said, you knew uh, about working and what it meant to hold a job, or the responsibility you had, in doing a job. And it's not something you can quit the job because somebody made you mad. But anyway, yeah, I think you're creating those opportunities. I think most cities are trying to do that now, create the opportunities. But like you said, it's important to put those opportunities where people can reach them, because you know, everybody doesn't have the means like some other people might have to even get to that place.
Right, and as we're talking about that's also a part, a fraction of our homelessness issue, not
Right,
just in Newport News, but across America, because so many people, they didn't start out early with responsibility and being a lot of people. Some things people are homeless maybe because they just have some severe issues, but it's a lot of people out here, they don't want to, what I call, pay to live. You've got to pay to live. Housing is not free.
right.
And for some reason, a lot of people think that there's some free housing out here. But you've got to work. And that's why I'm such a proponent of starting out with our summer jobs. I think that's imperative for people, and to have some connectivity to help people understand, because a lot of people come from families. If you come from a family that the majority of your life, your family has been on public assistance, um, and not understanding that everybody's not going to send you a free check. You got to get out here and work. Somebody is saying educate. Oh, that's my soror Tish. Hi
That's your
Tish.
Sora. Yeah.
Hi Tish. Thank you for joining in. Yeah, she's saying education. Yeah, education is the key to ending poverty. I totally agree.
Yeah, and that's what we mentioned that we had a we mentioned that before the show came on as far as when people are talking about crime in the different cities, which all the cities experience it, and some things you cannot help, but you have to deal with the root of the problem, and sometimes poverty is part of that root that it takes time to get in there and sort of work within that system, to make sure the people coming up through that you know, just don't have that sense of hopelessness and
Exactly.
might revert to whatever way. Some of it is just a means to survival, and some of
Yeah.
it is just pure evil. But a lot of it is a means of survival, and this is all they know in their neighborhood because the opportunities wasn't there. Like the centers for them to be trained for a position. So getting to the root of the problem. So the people that say something about crime in all the cities, is something. It's a work in progress. It always is, and they probably say, "Wow, it's been going on for a long time." But it's
Well,
not something that you can solve overnight. But it's something that it's going to take all of us, not just
well,
the elected officials.
yeah, and well, the other thing is with the crime, we're usually really looking at, um, overcoming something that was designed to make us as Black people fail. The redlining
Yeah.
in America, that where white society redlined Black people into certain areas, usually with no connectivity to jobs, job training, no connectivity to the right stores. I'm so proud of my district too, because the lower part of my district, which I felt like our city had left us down here to kind of die, because we had a few grocery stores, which we're still trying to get more, but now we've created an office, the offices of 25 and J, where small office space, because so many young people now are creating their own businesses, but to lease a building is usually $2,500 a month or more, which makes it almost impossible to sustain your business. So now
Yes.
we've done the offices of 25 and J at right around 25th and Jefferson, where people have the opportunity to rent at an affordable price. I think they're maybe like $400 a month or $600 a month, something like that. But to make it affordable, so you can start your business.
So
Those
yeah,
those
and
are the
they're just
opportunities.
okay, so they're just paying that. They don't have to worry about the overhead and the
Right,
electricity and all that. It's buying them a space to be able that they really need to be able to start their business. A lot of them are going there doing their podcasting like this. You know, uh,
right.
it's a way you can make money that way too. But giving them an opportunity, is the way if we want to defeat some of the ills that are in all of our cities. We have to present those opportunities and not pay attention to what some of the people on the national scene say. We're creating opportunities and taking jobs away from other people. That's not the case, you know.
Yeah.
And but that's a whole nother show about
Well, yeah,
some of those.
you'll have to invite me back for that part.
Yeah, we should talk about white supremacy and all that. So I know you have some issues. I mean, some thoughts on that. But anyway,
Yeah.
this is about Newport News right now. I want to ask you about, and I want to get to Black History since we're ending the month. But before that, I put this picture up, and everybody knows about the Newport News shipbuilding. And one of the things here in Portsmouth, we have the Norfolk Naval Shipyard. But one of the things about it is it sits on government land, and we cannot tax it. It's a certain amount of money they might get from it, but not like it would if we could tax it. Because
Yes.
what about Newport News? It's a private entity. Do y'all get taxes from that? Is that a great source of income for you all?
Yes, we do get taxes from our shipyard, and they're very supportive in our city. They are one of the largest employers. At one time, they were large, but I hope I'm correct, because Riverside had expanded. Riverside hospitals had expanded, and they have become one of our largest employers as well. But yeah, it's been a benefit to a lot of people. So many families that have, you know, people who have worked there for 30 and 40 years to provide, and you know, that's part of our city that we build great ships. And
Yeah.
so that I'm proud to be able to have that in our city, to be able to know that we're from a place that we build great ships.
Yeah, people don't realize, or some people don't realize the significance of that shipyard and the ships over the years that they have built there, that have gone to war and that have been out to sea protecting the country, submarines and everything. So that's significant. I would just want to know, if you're getting, tax and not to take it from Norfolk Naval Shipyard, they participate, they help the city out as much as they can, but by being a government property, we cannot tax it, but it's like 50%, almost 50% of our land, sits on government property, so that we can't tax. So we have to look for other ways to raise money. But that's a great way to be able to tax Newport News and the employment that they do there, and the apprenticeship program, prepares people for working there or anywhere else in the United States. So
Yeah,
that's a great plus.
and they have high numbers in that apprentice school program. A lot of people attend, and I didn't know until I went to one of the graduations a few years ago that so many people come from other states to go to the apprenticeship program. Well, because it's
Yeah.
really kind of like a college.
Yes, it is. They have basketball team, and I don't know
Yeah.
if they still have the football team, but they have all those sports and everything there. So
Yes.
what show this picture? What area is this? Is that downtown? Is that can you
Is that
see it?
that looks like Christopher Newport?
Oh, okay, that's the college, and
Oh wait,
that's
oh that's City Center. Let me see.
I don't know. I should have. I think I knew what it was first. I put it up and forgot. Uh, I'm looking at the large picture on the big building. They have Columbia up there.
Oh,
That might be.
RBC Centura. Oh, that's
Yeah.
City Center. You
Okay.
that's our City Center. Now that was our City Center was created before I got on council.
Mhm. So you have City Center, and you have Oyster Point, and the the original downtown. Am I correct, or is Center City part of the original downtown?
No, because City Center is in the, Newport News, like I said, we are Long City,
Long
20
City. So
square miles. So that's in the center of our city. That's the center of our city, where you see the RBC Centura Bank. We have some restaurants up there, and also those apartments. So housing is up there. We also have this. There's a what the hibachi restaurant up there in the area. This other nice restaurant called wait, it's a sage. I think it's called
mhm.
sage. Saute. That's it. Saute. Sorry about my memory this morning.
That's okay. I mean, it's so much there in Newport News. There are a lot of people that don't pay attention, that don't know. They just have one idea of Newport News, the shipyard, and maybe some other areas, but they don't know you have all these different pockets of places: Oyster Point, Center City, and then you have the original downtown area where all
And
the
then you
business
can't
takes care.
we can't forget Denby, our northern part of our city, the
Denby.
Denby area. And I was really so happy when we started the Oyster Point redevelopment, that we got I love PF Chang, so we got our own PF Chang restaurant, our Bonefish Grill. I love that place, and so we do have a lot of things happening in our city. A lot of great things happening.
Yeah, that's great, and that's what I want. A lot of people do know about it, but I bet you anything, a lot of people from other cities don't realize it. They don't. A lot of people pass through Newport News going to Richmond. If they go that way, or Hampton, or if they go to James River Bridge, they're going to go through Newport News, going to Richmond or Yorktown or any of those other places, and they don't think about going over there and visiting some of those different spots that you have.
Right, and plus
Especially Oyster Point. I wish I had a picture of that, but especially that's a really nice, quaint area, to go. It has just about everything you need, and I think you have lodging there,
Yes, we definitely do.
apartments. Yeah,
And the Whole Food store, is that have you visited there, Slim?
not yet, not yet. Well, that's one of the things. If my daughter was here, she's a Whole Food store person, and I don't think we have one on this side. There might be one in Norfolk, but anyway, yeah. I'm like I said, I'm gonna have to visit over there, and especially when the weather gets a little warmer, because I like to be outside
I do
and
too.
pick one of those, probably Oyster Point, and find a time when you're not too busy, where we can
Right.
get together and enjoy some of the things that I see. So I can, when I talk about it, I can talk about it from experience.
Well,
But
that'll
I
be
used to
really
go
good
over
to
there
hear.
quite a bit when I was younger, to party and all that. But I went all over the place then, but that was wherever the clubs were. I can't even remember that club in Newport News, but that was back in the day. But it's so much going on since then. And
Yeah.
and I want to talk about now, since it's Black History Month, a lot of people, you know, I mentioned about one of the things, one of the niches that Portsmouth has is its history, and a part of that history is the sh- Norfolk Naval Shipyard that brought a lot of people here, and a lot of communities were created for the workers. One of them is the one I grew up, Truxton, for the blacks, and Craddock for the whites. But Newport News has quite a bit of history too. I was looking at Attorney Thomas Newsom. It has uh, the Newsom House. Is it a Newsom House there?
Yes.
I think
Yes.
I have the picture that I'm sure.
Yeah, the Newsom House, it's in my district actually. Yeah, isn't that a beautiful home?
That's a beautiful home. And so he was an attorney there, and it's actually the house has been turned into a museum and cultural center.
Yes, it has. And so that we can always have, because he was a powerful attorney,
Hmm.
and he and his family lived there, right here in Newport News. So that is some great history to have with somebody who was so important during the civil rights time. Most of those black attorneys, they, not all, but um, had to usually, when they came on early on like that, they usually had to do some type of thing with civil rights because that was such a big issue during the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, yeah, that was a big part of my dad's practice early on in his practice, civil rights, and over here in Portsmouth, and that's why I was saying a long time ago. A lot of those attorneys um, worked together, throughout
Yeah,
the Hampton Roads, called Tidewater then, for certain issues like Seaview Beach and things like that, or other beaches, to get them open, libraries. So uh, looks like Thomas Newsom was a big part of what happened over there in the city. But if he was living in that house back in the day, he was doing pretty
exactly.
good.
Exactly. But when you go in there too, though, it shows you that how life has changed because during that time, people's closets were very small compared to what we have now.
Hmm.
Walk-in closets. I don't think very few people had those in that time, and the rooms are small in
Yeah,
there. It's the way that house was built, but it's a beautiful place.
yeah, but that's an amazing thing, and yeah, and I saw something else about James Fields, and it's like a Fields house.
Yeah,
Um, and he was an attorney and an educator, and he opened his house up as a hospital during the days.
right.
You couldn't go to the white hospital, so you had to go somewhere. It's just like over this side, it was Norfolk Community, where because they wouldn't take you to some of the hospitals. So he opened his house up as a hospital. So his house is also, I guess, I don't have a picture of that, but I think his house is also part of
It,
that.
yeah, in downtown Newport News. It's at the corner of 29th and Jefferson, I believe, but not too far from where I live. But that I tell you, when you study the history of the racial problems of America, it was really sad that for a while black people couldn't go to hospitals, and so um, it has been said that uh, for a while some people had to go to jails for use of the hospital, black people, and that's one of the reasons Congressman Scott's dad, C. Waldo Scott,
Yeah,
he was a great medical doctor, but that was one of his strengths that I particularly remember my mom talking about when she was alive, that how he used to make house calls
yeah. I
to provide health
came up with his
services.
name doing my research about Doctor. He was a surgeon actually. So,
Yes, one of the
often you get a
best.
surgeon making house calls, but really great people. And the last thing I'll mention up as far as history, maybe you can talk more about Black history, but Huntington High School, uh, which is a historic Black high school compared to I.C. Norcom over here in Portsmouth, Booker T. Washington, and Norfolk. One of the schools that only blacks could go to there. I mean, that was the only school blacks could go to at one point. So it held some historic significance, Huntington. I guess by the time you came along, it was a lot different.
Well, I missed it by a few years, and because
Yeah, it was
I'm an integration child, um,
right.
and so we were able to go to different schools. But I'm proud to say, as being a member of City Council, that we are building the new Huntington because the school had gotten so old. We spent a little over $100,000, $100,000 so far. Probably more. Don't actually quote me on that, but
Okay.
to be able to build the new Huntington School, and it's gonna improve that corridor over there on in downtown Newport News. It's
Yeah,
going to
and
really
and
improve that corridor because we're also building the new Doris Miller Community Center. Doris Miller was a cook in World War One, and so even though he was a cook, the war broke out, and he ended up shooting a cannon and firing at the
he,
enemies.
he was that guy that you see famously in pictures and posters and
Yeah,
everything. I think a lot of people didn't know he was from Newport News, but the guy that was on the ship shooting the
exactly.
big guns, and
Which,
and, and that's a famous picture that people see. And
yeah, but
I always talk about how important it is. I know it's important to during Black History Month and all year round for our young people to know about the national figures like Martin Luther King and Jesse Jackson, rest in peace, and all those people. But
yeah,
it's so important. It's as important to know the people in your own city
yes,
that have
definitely.
made history. I mean, you are a part of that history, and there's so many people that go unnoticed that did some really significant things, not only in the city of Newport News. You got Pearl Bailey coming out. I mean, wow,
Yeah,
and you got people coming out of there that a lot of people don't know, and you need to really concentrate. We need to really concentrate and make sure our young people know of the history of people right in their own city, as
yeah,
well as the national figures. I mean, you're going to see that around, but it should be a concentrated effort, I think, because
yes,
every city has those people. Jesse Radley, first Black female mayor.
yes. And actually, she's been the only female mayor in Newport News.
Yes,
And so, and Ella Fitzgerald is from
yeah,
here,
Ella Fitzgerald. Yeah,
but we do have a big mural on 25th and Jefferson on a building with Ella Fitzgerald on it. It is beautiful. If you ever come through, you have to see that. It is beautiful.
yeah. And how you feel about it? Is there any efforts to make sure that because sometimes you can't get all that in the school curriculum because the schools, especially the public schools, elementary to high school, their curriculum is so so tight, and certain things that they have to follow, the teachers have to follow. It's not always a lot of time to add those things, although some teachers find ways to put it in there.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
how do you feel about that? Or is there any efforts going forward that, in the rec centers, or maybe uh, I see you have a historical society like Portsmouth does, the Newport News Historical Society.
Yeah.
A group of private citizens that are dedicated to making sure that history is preserved.
Yes. And I think every city needs to have that because you do want to highlight, you do want to, even though want to be a city that's progressive, you still want to remember some of the great things and the people who really had the place started, just like our historic Hilton area in
Mhm.
Newport News. That was a place where when the shipyard started, a lot of people, that's how that community became Hilton, because a lot of people lived there because it's not far from the shipyard. They lived there in that area. So really those shipyard workers made that Hilton area. It's a nice area with restaurants and different shops, and very walker friendly in the area. And we have a lot of festivals there.
Yeah. And, and moving to something else, you mentioned something earlier about redlining and how that was affected. Now we're dealing with redistricting,
Yes.
in the state, as far as uh, that might affect our voting. But luckily, we're on the positive side with the with the people we have in office now, in order to make sure that's going to be fair. But you, you know, how's the housing stock? You're in real estate. You're a broker, and some of the cities, some of the issues some of the cities have is the lack of affordable housing,
Yes.
and it's a lot of housing being built, and a lot of developers coming in cities and building, you know, apartments or housing where they can get the most for their buck. But we're
Right.
seeing an influx of people coming in Portsmouth now, thank goodness, that are building affordable housing for people, to start off, it's in the
Yeah.
form of apartments and townhomes. How's
Yeah,
that?
and then that affordability though, it means something different to everybody. Some
Right,
people,
right.
if you're wealthy, an affordable monthly rent to rent a space, affordable to them might be 3,500 a month.
Yeah, you say, oh man, that's cheap. But to somebody else, they might say 3,500 a month. I don't pay that much for my mortgage. You
Right.
know,
And so that affordability thing can be, you know, it it means something different to so many people.
They'll
And
take affordability thing down to the average person. The average person, when you look at the average wage earnings for each city, you know, it's not at that point where most people can afford that $3,500 a month, even though apartments are being built for that and they're being filled. But how is that going? How is the market in Newport News right now as far as affordability?
well, I
You know,
I
and
don't
and
I don't do
go
any
ahead.
rentals. I do sales. And
Yeah.
so what I'm seeing, I've my last few clients, um, the housing prices are just ever increasing. Now it would have been, I've been in real estate since 2001, and it would have been unheard of for a 3-bedroom house that was renovated, not brand new,
Hmm.
not built brand new. But the houses, you don't have a lot of square footage, 900 to 1,000
Yeah.
square feet. A lot of times they're asking $200,000 sales price for that space. That's
Yeah.
where we
I mean,
are.
you're seeing that in the neighborhoods you and I grew up in.
Right.
Where the housing, where I think it was slated that the affordable housing would be in the older neighborhoods now, but people are coming in, buying and renovating,
Yes.
and putting them on the market for $200,000. It seemed, or more, and seemed unimaginable, which
Yeah.
pushes up the prices in the whole neighborhood. When you look at when the assessments come in, you know, they assess the properties according to you know what's selling. If you
Exactly.
sell a couple of houses for $300,000, but you still got all these little 2-bedroom houses still in these old neighborhoods, the price for that, and their taxes go up. But so the affordability seems like to be in the apartments and townhomes where people are coming in and doing that. And like you said, you don't do that, but usually the housing authority works with that, because you got that subsidiability in those houses where people can. Nothing's free, like you said earlier, but if you can get some subsidized, if you can
Yeah.
qualify for that, and most of the people are working jobs. People might say it's subsidized; they just sit home. No, these people are working,
Yeah.
but
A
they
lot of
they
them, a lot of them,
qualify. They
a lot of them
qualify.
are, but you have some people who do a lot of in the community who don't work. But I got to say this about Hampton Roads.
Yeah,
We have some of the most subsidized housing Hampton Roads does. So that in saying that we are uh, always looking to provide relief for some people who may not qualify, or it really is tough for them to work because if you're on a fixed income, it's not but so much you can pay for rent because your income is fixed the same amount every month.
right,
So that's important that as all cities move forward, that we look at that to know. And now you have to add in the factor that people are living longer. They're
right,
living
right,
longer.
and and you have to
It was unheard of years ago for a lot of people to be in their 90s.
right,
So we
and
have to
now
add
you
that
got people
factor in
walking
because
around
you
in
have
their
less
hundreds.
income. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, indeed.
A lot of times, as people were older, they have less incomes because, that's why they made the retirement age 65 because a lot of people usually didn't last too long after that. So
Right,
we have
and now
to,
they're pushing it up. They want to push it up.
yeah, and I like to talk about that to tell people because everybody who is on Earth, they're going to have to look at how will they sustain their lives after retirement because you could be here another 30 or 40 years.
Right, and a lot of people don't factor that in.
Exactly.
When you,
And then because you have
especially
to have the conversation
especially
because
when you're young.
yeah, because how will your family survive?
Well, that's another reason for the affordable housing, especially because you have to start. Excuse me. You have to start somewhere, and if you have affordable housing, it gives you the opportunity, possibly starting out, you'll be able to save and work towards that retirement. You know, so and the last thing, uh, some of the issues in some of the cities are senior housing. Because a lot of people, once they reach the senior age, and you probably see this a lot in single family homes, you run across a client that they got to the point where we need to downsize because this is too
Yeah,
much house, too much yard, for us to do or to keep paying somebody to come in here and maintain it. So we want to downsize, but we want something that is pretty close to how we're living now. So
right,
how is that going in Newport News? Because I mean, you got the affordability and the seniors that kind of go hand in hand, but we lost people here in the city of Portsmouth because we didn't have enough suitable senior housing, which we're working on now. So how's
right.
Newport News handling that? Because like you said, we're getting older, we're living longer, and
Yeah.
and that's a good thing. But we
Well, I
can't
think
live in
we
those. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
well, I think we've done well. We have Ash Manor is for affordable housing for seniors. We have the harbors and we have several units even up further. I don't know all the names of them, but we do have our fair share of senior housing in Newport News, and so that makes it better for people to if they want to transition from, particularly if they own a home, if they want to transition from there to some of the senior housing. But
Yeah.
but
So
most of it we still have a waiting. Most of them still have waiting lists.
yeah, that's so important to make sure we have that. at senior housing for the people. And
Yes.
I want to ask you this last thing. What would you, I guess sometimes you go out speaking to people in high schools and things like that, and some of the kids coming up that might go off to college, and a lot of times we want them to go off to college and get that education, but we want a lot of them to do like you did, come back home and serve, and that's why all the talking you did earlier about providing opportunities for them to come back home. And if you had an audience of young kids that were on the, seniors, get ready to go to college, what would you say to them to try to encourage them to come back to Newport News and use the education that they achieve? Just come back home and contribute to their hometown. You're not going to get them all because opportunity
Right.
is going to be all over the place, but you want a certain percentage of them to come back home. And you're a classic example of that. So you would be the perfect person to talk to them about
Yes, but I think it'll be a tough fight, particularly
it.
as the
Self
world has
sale.
changed, because that was 1984 when I finished college, Virginia
Yeah,
Commonwealth
and then you
University.
did go somewhere else before you came back home, right? Didn't you
No,
work somewhere?
I came back home. It
Hmm.
was very difficult for me to find a job. I started substitute teaching. Then I
Right.
started working with pregnant teens. It was a program, the Resource Mothers Program. It was a program really uh, from Linda Robb, the former Governor Chuck Robb's wife,
Hmm.
because she was concerned about the low birth weights of babies in the state of Virginia. And so our program, it was under the auspices of the Office of Human Affairs, our community action agency, um, to be able to make home visits to these girls and take them to the doctor's appointments, help them understand about the seriousness of the pregnancy, and so they would not have low birth weights. But then I started working with juvenile offenders, and that job took me out to one of the best times I had in my life, the city of New Orleans, Louisiana.
Oh,
I
it's
would
amazing you
never
even
forget
came
that
back
part.
from there. It's amazing you even came back from there. Most people go there, they don't come back.
Right, but I was glad I was glad to be there, but I'm because I had my children by then, my daughter Tianche, my son Terrence, and so they cannot ever forget New Orleans. They really grew up there, and
Hmm.
so the only reason I did come back, but my mom's health was failing. So at
Okay.
that point, it's not like if you're in D.C. or something and you can drive back and forth or Richmond. That was a long stretch, so I had to
Yeah.
come back home.
And that's what brings the people back home sometime, to come back for their parents or the
Yes.
opportunities because, most people that end up in Atlanta or something like that, they don't come back home. So like you said, it'd be a hard sell, but it'll be some that will come back and probably be elected official or feel an obligation to contribute to their community. And all you can do is just uh, provide opportunities for them to come back. That's one of the things. So many other opportunities elsewhere that they can go.
Yeah,
But
and we of course we have Christopher Newport University in our city, and
right.
I go and speak to their state and local government class with Dr. Reisky every year, and it's always good to I always encourage them to not just stay on the campus, but go around and see all of the different opportunities that we have in Newport News because we do have around our tech center, our tech center in the Oyster Point area. They have a lot of excitement, great restaurants, and um, so it's a lot of things going on. We're adding some restaurants to our downtown, but behind City Hall in downtown Newport News. So we have a lot of places. We're developing more places where people can go because people really do want a nightlife. A lot of the young people they want a nightlife.
Right. Right. You need that in
It's
order. That's
important.
all. That's all a part of uh, adding to the ambiance of coming back home,
Yes,
having a
exactly.
nightlife. A good job and being able to let your hair down, so to speak.
Right.
You know, and some of the smaller cities we want to make it a walkable city where
Yeah.
most of the things you can do you can just walk, and each one of those pockets you mentioned earlier, like Oyster Point and Central City, you know, once you're there, it's real walkable.
Very
When the
walkable.
weather is nice and even when it's cold, you can go inside. But and that's what makes you just park and have a good time. So that's
Yeah,
Newport News, Virginia. People need to know. The people that live there know the value of Newport News, and people that live around in Hampton Roads know the value of Newport News. But we want people to come from out
definitely.
of town.
Right. We definitely want that, and we
Yeah.
want them. Of course, people who come from out of town at our Marriott hotel. We want them to, of course, every elected official wants people to come and spend money.
Yes, yes, indeed. Spend money. But look, I want to thank you for coming on. I really enjoyed the conversation, and we're going to come back and do it and talk about some specific areas, of
Yeah,
concern that might be, and offer people like that are making comments, that are making comments that they can make more comments and have questions for you about what's going on. But we want to thank you. I want to thank everybody for watching Slim Talk. Well, City Talk with Slim and our special guest, the Honorable Tina Vick. And Tina, hope to see you soon. I know you
yeah,
have a busy day facing you, but have a great day and happy Black History Month to you and all year round. And remember, you're making history every day. Every day you wake up and step out that door, you're making history. You're a part of Newport News history and
thank
American
you so
history. We
much.
appreciate you.
Thank you
Thanks a
so
lot,
much.
everybody. We'll see you next time. Do you have any last words you want to say? I don't want to.
Well, I just want to just thank you for having me, and I'll be ready to come back anytime. So thank you. I enjoyed our conversation, and
I
thank
enjoyed it too.
everyone for tuning in. I really appreciate it. So, Tish,
Yes,
everybody.
yes. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you. And take care. We'll see you next time. And let's see if I can get this outro out. Take care, everybody.